Thank you for joining today's online travel presentation, where we take a look back at 2021 and some of the popular itineraries that captured travelers' wanderlust. My name is Lynn, and I'm pleased to be your presenter today. Let's kick things off with talking just a little bit about vacations by rail, and then we'll jump into those itineraries and destinations. So, Vacations by Rail is the leading rail vacations company in the United States, and we are the trusted authority on rail. We have the largest collection of train vacations to destinations around the globe, and the cornerstone of each of those is a rail journey aboard at least one iconic train. Vacations by Rail is a great rail journeys company, which means that we're backed by more than 45 years of experience in the specialty of global rail tours. We are a member of the National Tour Association, American Bus Association, and we're AARP's preferred rail provider. In addition to unmatched vacations, we offer best-in-class customer care from your first call or email to your return from your trip. So a rail vacation is a great way to get a new perspective on the region through which you're traveling. This is genuinely experiential travel at its best. And a rail journey with Vacations by Rail offers a truly distinctive and memorable experience with a well-planned itinerary packed with quality inclusions. Iconic train journeys, centrally located hotels, comprehensive sightseeing, and authentic experiences are part of each package. Now, I'd like to get to know a little bit more about you before we jump into the rest of our presentation. So I'm going to launch our first polling question. Here it is. What is your favorite time of year to travel? So go ahead and select the season that best matches when you like to travel, and we'll leave this open for about 15 more seconds. All right, it looks as though everyone has had a chance to participate. So I'm going to close that poll. And the answers are in. 38% of attendees recognize fall as their favorite time to travel. We've got you covered later in this presentation with some really noteworthy fall itineraries. But let's kick things off with this. It doesn't seem possible that a year ago we were thinking about the goals we wanted to achieve in the new year. And this one right here was on my list, to travel more. If this is one of your goals, I really hope you found success. Many of our customers did, and I'm excited to showcase the destinations, trains, and itineraries that they considered some of the best this year. So there's no better place to start than the Colorado Rockies. No surprise, it's a great destination for train aficionados, history buffs, nature lovers, and travelers of all varieties. For an enhanced Colorado experience, we look to our Colorado Rail Experience itinerary. This is a favorite amongst our travelers. It features 6 heritage and scenic trains through the Colorado Rockies. And once you experience it, you'll understand what Teddy Roosevelt meant when he called a train trip through the Colorado Rocky Mountains the trip that bankrupts the English language. So this is an escorted tour, which means that you're with a group of travelers led by a professional tour manager. This is 8 days, and it begins and ends in Denver. And on this trip, you're able to discover large expanses of landscape that's hidden away from modern traffic and roadways. Again, we're on 6 fantastic trains, the Georgetown Loop Railroad, the Leadville, Colorado and Southern Railroad, and here we are following this path here, Durango and Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad, Cumbre and Toltec Scenic Railroad, the Royal Gorge Route Railroad, and right here, the newly reopened Manitou and Pikes Peak Railway. It was refurbished and newly reopened this past May. So while we ride the rails, railroad experts and knowledgeable guides introduce us to the mining and railway history of the state. Our journey also includes a visit to the Colorado Rail Museum and a visit to the awe-inspiring Garden of the Gods. So here are some stunning images from the tour. The Royal Gorge Route Railroad traveling that spectacular route along the Arkansas River. There are these narrow granite walls that frame the way as you travel along the rushing waters of the Arkansas River and enjoy a really outstanding meal on board the train. And then over here we have the resort town of Breckenridge and the Cumbrian and Toltec Scenic Railroad here, traveling a winding course through the southern edge of the Rockies. This is a 64-mile route, and it travels between Chama, New Mexico, and Antonito, Colorado. And it crosses that state border 11 times throughout its journey, which is pretty amazing to think about. Here we have that Garden of the Gods. It's a national natural landmark site. We're going to take a drive through those dramatic red rocks. Did you know that some of them reach up to 300 feet tall? I'm 5 feet tall, so that is just stunning to me. Here we have the Durango and Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad. It travels a 45-mile route between Durango and Silverton aboard a fully restored steam train. And it's original to the line. There are open air gondolas that offer uninhibited views of the surrounding scenery. And last, we have right here the Georgetown Loop Railroad. It was founded during the glory years of the gold and silver rush, and it follows a double looped route between Georgetown and Silver Plume. So there's no better way to immerse yourself in gold rush lore and relish the secluded scenes of the Rocky Mountains than this particular itinerary, packed with exciting excursions and activities. But it's more than just historic trains. There are incredibly scenic drives across the Ute, Trout Creek, and Wolf Creek passes, incredible views from atop Pikes Peak, and just overall unique perspectives await you. But speaking of scenery, Alaska felt a lot of love this year because the secret was out. For breathtaking scenery, add Alaska to your list. It is the ideal destination for outdoor adventures and off the beaten path itineraries. And a popular itinerary for a real best of Alaska is our Alaska the Great Land Tour. So this is a 9-day escorted tour. It's starting in Fairbanks and it ends in Anchorage. And because this is an escorted tour, you're going to have that tour manager with you from start to finish. Your luggage will be handled for you, and you will travel with the same small group of people. So here we start in Fairbanks up here, and we have 2 nights there. And then we travel from Fairbanks to Denali in Gold Star service aboard the Denali Star Train. This is a really memorable journey on the Alaska Railroad's flagship route. Your onboard experience is highlighted by large dome glass windows. It runs the full length of your rail car, and it's perfect for 360-degree viewing. You also have a reserved seat in that upper dome section of the rail car, and then there's priority seating in the lower level dining room as well. After 2 nights in the Denali Bluffs Hotel at Denali National Park, right outside of Denali National Park, we're going to continue south by train to Talkeetna on the Denali Star. We're not in Gold Star class on this leg, but you still have access to all of the amazing features of the train, including an outdoor viewing platform. You're going to soak in some amazing views, including Denali's south face on a clear day, and cross the summit of the Continental Divide. After 1 night in Talkeetna, then we transfer by motor coach to Anchorage, the Kenai Peninsula, and 2 nights in Seward. And from Seward, we transfer by coach to Whittier and take the Alaska Railroad's Glacier Discovery train back to Anchorage for our last overnight hotel. So here are some images of what you can expect to see. And I'm going to start here at the top. This is Kenai Fjords National Park. And then we have Prince William Sound and Denali National Park are those first 3 images up here. And then on the bottom are the Alaska Railroad, the onboard accommodations, and this is Surprise Glacier. Surprise Glacier is one of the glaciers we visit on a Prince William Sound and Surprise Glacier tour, which is really breathtaking. So some of the highlights on our Alaska the Great Land Tour include that those 3 days of rail travel I told you about on the Alaska Railroad, including Gold Star service on the Denali Star from Fairbanks to Denali, and of course that Glacier Discovery train from Whittier to Anchorage. In Fairbanks, we take a 3-hour riverboat discovery tour along the Chena and Tanana rivers with a visit to a Chena Indian village. So we get a real cultural experience there. And we stay for 2 nights at the Denali Bluffs Hotel. And in that hotel, we're staying in Riverview rooms with excellent proximity to Denali National Park. And while at Denali National Park, we have a full day tour. So you can really get to know that national park and dig deep into that wilderness and explore just all the excitement that Alaska has to offer. Breathtaking views bound with a ride on the Alyeska Area Scenic Tram. We're going to take a 7-minute trip up to a viewing deck with breathtaking panoramic views of the mountains and hanging glaciers and an array of wildlife. The Kenai Fjords National Park Cruise lets you explore glaciers and observe sea otters, sea lions, and puffins, and all of this other marine life. And lastly, the Surprise Glacier Cruise, which we talked about, which takes us to some of the most beautiful places on Prince William Sound, including Surprise Glacier. So Denali is an incredible national park, and the elusive mountain peak is a sight to behold, especially on a clear day. So national parks and the railroads have such an illustrious history that this is the perfect segue for me to talk about a real showstopper and fan favorite. It's our America's Great National Parks tour, and it's really appropriately named. We visit 5 national parks on this tour: Glacier, Yellowstone, Grand Teton, Arches, and Canyonlands. So this is a 14-day escorted tour. It begins in Chicago or Seattle, or really any point in between on that rail route. And it kicks off with a classic overnight rail adventure on Amtrak's Empire Builder for the journey across the Northern Prairie to Glacier National Park, the first of the 5 national parks we explore on this trip. So a highlight of our time in Glacier National Park is traveling along the famous Going to the Sun Road aboard vintage Red Jammer buses. After we explore Glacier, we travel on to Yellowstone National Park. And here we have a 2-night stay within the park. We see all the most popular attractions there, including the Upper and Lower Falls, and of course, Old Faithful. And then our adventure continues as we head to the resort town of Jackson, which is right outside of Grand Teton National Park. And finally, we conclude with a visit to Utah, which brings us to Salt Lake City and the Red Rocks of Moab. And of course, 2 of Utah's popular national parks, Arches and Canyonlands. So some of my favorite highlights of this trip is that overnight rail adventure on the Empire Builder. It follows a pioneer route to Big Sky Country, and it's really a classic experience on a legendary American train. I'm also partial to a float trip along the Snake River through Grand Teton National Park. It's a peaceful, scenic, and relaxing experience that really makes the journey. Continuing the national parks theme, and another fan favorite, and truly 2021 was no exception, is our Great Parks of the Southwest featuring the Grand Canyon Tour. This is a 10-day escorted tour, and it starts in Chicago and ends in Grand Junction. If you live out west, you can definitely start in Los Angeles and meet up with a group in Flagstaff. So on this tour, we discover the natural wonders and rugged wilderness of the Southwest as we journey through canyon country. So this tour has it all. It has amazing national parks, classic train journeys, and really spectacular sightseeing and excursions. We've combined iconic sites, some unique experiences, and here we go again, 5 different beloved national parks that make this a real Southwestern adventure to remember. So we start with a classic overnight train ride on the Southwest Chief to Flagstaff. And we arrive late the following evening and overnight in Flagstaff. What follows is daily excitement, jaw-dropping scenery, and really an amazing assortment of national parks and historic destinations. On that next day, we wake up in Flagstaff and we continue by deluxe motor coach to Williams for an excursion aboard the vintage rail cars of the Grand Canyon Railway. And that's going to take us to the South Rim in Grand Canyon National Park. We're going to stay for 2 nights here at the South Rim. So continuing our journey, we go to visit Lake Powell for a narrated boat cruise and on to Kanab, which if you're a fan of Western movies, you'll probably recognize Kanab as the setting for those movies. Kanab is actually known as Little Hollywood, especially for those Western themed films. So continuing, we explore Zion, Bryce Canyon, Capitol Reef, and Arches National Parks, and learn about the history and iconic features of each on guided tours. We're going to take a jet boat ride on the calm water section of the Colorado River for a new perspective of Utah's Red Rock Cliffs. And as we're near the end of the itinerary, we stay in Moab at the incomparable Red Cliffs Lodge. So this hotel is situated on the banks of the Colorado River, and it really offers beautiful panoramic views. So let's review some of the highlights. That classic overnight rail adventure, visits to 5 national parks, a rail excursion on the vintage Grand Canyon Railway, a lake cruise at Lake Powell, and a jet boat ride down the Colorado River. And it's hard to pick a favorite. So 2021 was the year of embracing wide open spaces. And I don't think anything says wide open spaces more than the Grand Canyon. So we visited that popular destination and that all the incredible natural wonders of the world in the last itinerary we talked about. And here it is as the main focus. This is our Grand Canyon Railway Rails to the Rim adventure. This is a 6-day independent vacation traveling round trip from Chicago. Now, when we talk about independent travel, we mean everything has been arranged for you and you are traveling a well-planned itinerary on your own, setting your own pace and seeing what you want when you want. So in Chicago, we board Amtrak Southwest Chief bound for Flagstaff, Arizona. And you know, Flagstaff is known as the gateway to the Grand Canyon. So in Flagstaff, we're going to transfer to Williams. And in Williams, we stay at the Grand Canyon Railway Hotel. The next morning, we get up early and we board the vintage rail cars of the Grand Canyon Railway. And here is that steam engine right there. And we're going to take that to the salt rim of the Grand Canyon. This is the same rail route that presidents like Franklin Delano Roosevelt and Dwight D. Eisenhower once took. And once at the South Rim, we're going to have a narrated motor coach tour. It's called the Freedom Tour. And we're going to discover like the scenic views and the most popular overlooks. And after a day of guided sightseeing, the rest of the time is yours. So you can explore the canyon at leisure. Make sure to visit important sites like Desert View Watchtower and the beautiful Colorado River, or just take in the stunning sunset as your time at that exceptional wonder of the world starts to come to a close. The next day, you return to Williams the same way you got to the South Rim aboard the Grand Canyon Railway, and enjoy one more night in the historic Grand Canyon Railway Hotel before transferring back to Flagstaff and returning to Chicago by train. So a highlight of this trip is the round trip travel on the Grand Canyon Railway. It's a heritage railroad which carries passengers between Williams, Arizona and the south rim of the Grand Canyon. The 64-mile ride was completed in 1901 and has taken many famous passengers from presidents to Hollywood stars to the Grand Canyon. Today, that railroad services hundreds of passengers daily and it operates year-round. So a couple things to note, because it operates year-round, this itinerary is available daily. And if you want to visit in the summer for, summer vacation with your kids or grandkids, that's of course possible. It's also available in the fall or even in the winter. If you want some of the crowds to dissipate, you want to catch maybe this canyon a bit snow dusted, winter is a great option as well. Also, if you're based on the West Coast, we do have a trip departing round trip Los Angeles. So you'll want to check that out online or ask a rail specialist for details. Now, when we started this morning, I promised we would get to fall, and here we are. This year, travelers embraced the autumn season, whether it was the vibrant fall colors, the mild temperatures, or to embark on a long-awaited adventure. There's no denying there is something special about the autumn season. So this year, our Great Lakes and Trains tour took travelers to autumn hotspots around the Great Lakes and showcased the very best of fall in the Midwest. So let's take a closer look at this 11-day escorted tour. So this tour begins in Chicago and ends in Detroit. And along the way, we're treated to some classic Midwest hospitality, some unique fall colors, and of course, some delightful trains and lake cruise excursions. So as I mentioned, we kick things off in Chicago, where we board Amtrak's Hiawatha at Chicago's historic Union Station. And this is just for a short journey to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. On arrival in Milwaukee, we board a deluxe motor coach. It's waiting to take us north to the scenic Door County Peninsula. And Sturgeon Bay is our destination there. And it's here that we really discover local traditions, such as fish boils, which are typically Midwest. So next, we're going to travel through Wisconsin as well as Michigan's Upper Peninsula, and we're going to cross the Canadian border into Sault Ste. Marie. It's a charming city on the St. Mary's River and our launching point for adventures both by train and by water. So we're going to cross the world famous Mackinac Bridge, the longest suspension bridge between anchorages in the Western Hemisphere. And we're going to arrive by ferry boat to Mackinac Island for a 2-day stay at the stunning Grand Hotel. This is a genuine highlight of this tour. The Grand Hotel is really iconic. It opened in 1887, and today it retains a lot of its original charm through historic architecture, as well as some time-honored traditions. Like, for instance, their dining room, it is still very appropriate to dress up for dinner. So the property itself has hosted presidents and has appeared in iconic movies. Some of you may recognize it from the movie Somewhere in Time. It also boasts the world's largest front porch, and as well as magnificent views of Lake Michigan. So, of course, we stay there for 2 nights, but then it's back to the mainland, and our drive takes us down the western shore of Michigan to Traverse City in one of the most beautiful displays of nature in the United States, and it's the popular Sleeping Bear Dunes. And we continue south with a stop at the Steam Railroad Institute in Owasso before arriving in Dearborn. And Dearborn is the city Henry Ford called home. So he has an Henry Ford Museum there, and there's actually several attractions, and we have an all-inclusive pass to visit those attractions. And that's where our tour concludes, with then the transfer to the airport in Detroit. So there are a lot of varied features on this tour, ranging from a Sioux Locks River cruise and the Agawa Canyon train excursion when we're in Sault Ste. Marie. And of course, Mackinac Island. I love the carriage tour there. And of course, that stay at the incomparable Grand Hotel. Those are some of the highlights for me, but there are so many. Every day brings something new at this fall tour. So travelers love this itinerary for its immersion into the Midwest's fall colors, as well as the opportunity to explore charming destinations in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Ontario, Canada. But if when you think of fall travel, you think of something slightly more traditional, like New England's fall foliage, we have that too, with a twist. We have a number of New England fall tours. However, this year, travelers wanted to combine the best of fall in New England with autumn in Eastern Canada, and they did so on our fall colors of New England, Quebec, and Montreal trip. So scenic rail excursions, superb hotels, and vibrant autumn foliage are hallmarks of this 11-day escorted tour through the fall colors of New England and French Canada. So while this escorted tour begins and ends in Boston, the itinerary really encourages guests to compare and contrast the vibrant fall colors in both the USA and Canada. And we begin by soaking up the history of Boston before traveling up to New Hampshire. And here we're going to go on some scenic rail excursions aboard the Winnipesaukee Scenic Railroad and the Mount Washington Cog Railway. We continue north to Vermont, and then over the border into Canada for sightseeing in both Montreal and Quebec City. We connect these two cities with a short daylight excursion on Via Rail's corridor service. We dip back into the United States in Maine, where we discover Bar Harbor. And Bar Harbor is the gateway to Acadia National Park. Acadia National Park is the oldest national park east of the Mississippi River. And here we're going to have a guided tour, which shows us some of the amazing aspects of the park, including we're going to walk up to the top of Cadillac Mountain, where we're going to have views of the Atlantic Ocean, which is just stunning. One of my favorite highlights of this tour is the scenic rail excursions. There is really no better way to experience the fall colors than a train ride through them. And of course, that New England lobster bake offers a real authentic regional experience. This itinerary is a favorite for its authentic New England and Quebecois experiences. There's delicious food, incredible scenic railway excursions, beautiful sights, and of course, beautiful fall colors in 2 different countries are all hallmarks of this classic fall getaway. So now we're going to cross the pond to Scotland, which is home to historic cities, the wild Scottish Highlands, and a rail journey on the train made famous by the Harry Potter movies. There it is on your screen. It is the Jacobite steam train, and here it is traveling along the Glenfinnan Viaduct, and it is really a sight to behold and even more amazing to experience firsthand. And we can do that on our Edinburgh, the Highlands and Islands tour. So this is a 9-day escorted tour. It begins and ends in Edinburgh, and it is escorted, which means that you're traveling with others and are joined by a tour manager from start to finish. Now, to ensure safer travel for our guests and offer an unparalleled travel experience, our tour size was reduced up to 38% in 2021, with many escorted tours in Europe, like this one, hosting an exclusive 25 or fewer guests per departure. So, as I mentioned, we begin in Edinburgh, where you can explore on your own before we travel to Glasgow. And in Glasgow, we board the renowned West Highland Line, and we travel aboard that train and see locks, and we travel past mountainscapes and through really charming villages. So leaving the mainland, we journey by ferry to the Isle of Mull and enjoy a visit to the ancient castle there and have a taste of authentic Scotch whiskey, which is a really nice touch. We continue to Neptune's Staircase. We have a cruise through Loch Lynn, a ride aboard the Jacobite steam train, of course, and a cruise across the famous Loch Ness. One final train ride, this time aboard the Kyle line, takes us to Kyle of Lochaulsh, where we visit the 13th century Eilean Donan Castle. And as the tour wraps back to Edinburgh, we have plenty of Scottish vistas to cap off our trip. So here are some images you'll see on this itinerary, and clockwise from the top, we have Duart, Inverness, Edinburgh, Eilean Donan Castle, Oban, and the Jacobite steam train. And the last trip that was a real favorite of travelers this year is in Switzerland. We're off to the land of wide open spaces again. It has sleek trains and incredible on-time performance. And of course, I'm talking about Switzerland with the beautiful Swiss Alps. And it's our popular Grand Train Tour of Switzerland itinerary. This is an 11-day independent trip. So once again, you're setting your own pace as you travel exclusively by train for 11 days to discover the diverse regions of Switzerland. So this trip, it begins and ends in Zurich. It's a train lover's dream. It's filled with twists and turns along rivers and mountainsides, stunning views only available by train, and incredible landscapes like the Bernese Oberland, the Simmen Valley, the Rhine Gorge, and of course, the Matterhorn. And as you travel from city to city, there's plenty of free time to explore each area and immerse yourself in Swiss culture. Here are some visual highlights of the trip. We have the Bernina Express up here, and then Montreux, Lucerne, Zermatt, Lugano, and there's that Matterhorn. It really is just an incredible immersion of Swiss culture. There's no doubt, next to the amazing scenery and fairy tale destinations like Grindelwald, Montreux, Zermatt, St. Moritz, Lugano, and Lucerne, the biggest adventures and memorable experiences lie in the trains. As you travel along the punctual Swiss rail network, we have 5 scenic rail journeys that highlight your entire trip. And the modern cars of the Golden Pass Panoramic, the Jungfrau Railway to the top of the Jungfraujoch, which is the highest railway station in Europe. The Gotthard Panorama Express, which some may remember was once called the Wilhelm Tell Express, and the delightful Bernina Express that dips into Italy, and of course, the slowest express train in the world, the Glacier Express. So while the trains are a definite highlight of this entire itinerary, because we are traveling entirely by train, there are other notable excursions and valuable inclusions, like that excursion to the top of the Jungfraujoch, which I mentioned. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and the length of time to get up there traveling aboard a couple of different trains as you transfer to get up to the top of that railway station. It's really worth it. Stunning views. There's shops at the top. There's some dining at the top. I mean, it really is a wonderful experience. And on this particular trip, there's also a Swiss coupon pass included, which provides really attractive offers in 11 destinations across Switzerland. Now, many of the itineraries we talked about today can be customized to some degree. And so for instance, on an escorted tour, consider adding a pre or post night hotel to the beginning or end of your tour. Or if it's more convenient, join from your nearest railway station. Independent vacations can be taken in reverse. You can add additional hotel nights or sightseeing in select destinations. You can upgrade your experience on the trains at hotels and with private transfers. Of course, I recommend asking a vacations by rail specialist about customizing your itinerary and the options available to you, as they can be different for each itinerary. So now it's time for another polling question, and let me go ahead and launch that. Here it is. What destinations are next on your vacation list? So we'll keep this open for about 30 seconds to give everyone a chance to participate. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this poll. And it looks like our top answer is Canada. So an excellent choice. I know with borders closed this year for a good portion of the year, it was hard to get up to Canada if you had already planned your vacation. So planning now for next year is an excellent idea. So let's move on. Look at that, 2022. Since we're already thinking ahead to next year, I want to give you an exclusive sneak peek at some new itineraries for next year. So Northern Lights viewing is pretty magical. We have a few popular independent and escorted tours to see the Northern Lights, both stateside and in Europe. And now, for the first time, we have a dedicated Northern Lights program in Canada. Our new Northern Lights and Winter Nights itinerary just went live on our website, and it's pretty phenomenal. It's an 8-day independent vacation. It's an expedition to the cusp of the Arctic. It includes a 2-night train ride on Via Rail's Winnipeg Churchill train. So you're going deep into Manitoba, where the Aurora Borealis is definitely more likely to be spotted deep in that wilderness, where there's not a lot of light pollution. And it also includes some really great local cultural experiences. And it's like, for instance, dog sledding or snowshoeing. So some really fun experiences in addition to chasing those Northern Lights. It departs in February, which is prime time for Northern Lights viewing. And it is a smaller group adventure, so space is limited. This promises to be a really memorable getaway. I'm super excited for the first departure, which is this coming February. 2022 and 2023 departures are up online, so we encourage you to check it out. So next up are 2 itineraries that marry a destination's cuisine with its culture. And we're really excited to develop these itineraries and make them available to you. The first is in sunny Spain with a 9-day independent rail vacation called Cuisine and Culture, Barcelona, Madrid, and Seville. So traveling exclusively by rail, this itinerary features comprehensive orientation tours in each destination, as well as small group and private touring, offering authentic experiences that really speak to the food and drinks and art, dance and architecture of Spain. So think paella lunches, tapas evenings, and maybe even a local flamenco show. So this itinerary is highly customizable. You can add optional excursions in each destination or optional tours to nearby cities like Montserrat and Toledo. So it really allows you to make this vacation experience truly unique to you. The next destination for a deep dive into cuisine and culture is the classic combination of Rome, Florence, and Venice. This itinerary is called Cuisine and Culture, Rome, Florence, and Venice. So, very appropriately named. It is not yet on our website, but is coming in the next few weeks. Once again, we're traveling exclusively by train. There will be orientation tours in each destination to better acquaint you with the city. And then there's standard touring and then optional excursions you can add to showcase more of the region. For instance, a journey to the Tuscan countryside for wine tasting. So these new European itineraries really allow you to taste your way through the country and get some real insight into the culture that makes each destination so unique. So if you'd like to learn more about our global rail vacations, you can request a brochure by calling 877-929-7245 or visit vacationsbyrail.com. You may also want to consider downloading a personal copy from our website. And of course, to make a reservation, you can contact any of our rail specialists toll-free at 877-929-7245, or of course, you can book online. And my popular insider tip, the rail specialist who assists you is going to be your dedicated rail specialist from the time that you contact us until you return from your trip. So it's time for some questions, and I have been watching some come in. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these questions. For the Colorado trip, where do we start if we are flying into Denver? Do we need a rental car or are we picked up from the airport? That's a good question. For our Colorado Rail Experience tour, which we talked about, it was the first tour we talked about. You make your way from the airport if you're flying in, or from the rail station if you're arriving by train. And you're traveling to the starting point of the tour, which is the Hilton Garden in Denver. We don't really recommend renting a car. A rideshare or a taxi would be much more affordable for this quick transfer. But what we do often recommend is considering a pre-night hotel stay at this particular hotel, the starting point of the trip. The tour does start in the morning, and a hotel night leading up to the tour departure, it ensures you're rested and refreshed and unhurried. And it also sort of prevents against any delays that may occur as you're traveling into Denver, if you arrive later than expected, or if you've maybe there's some missed connections. So this ensures that you don't really miss anything. Your rail specialist will certainly assist you. They'll inquire if this is something that you may be interested in. It's certainly not required, but it is recommended. All right, the next question. For the fall tours, do you sleep on the trains? No, not for the fall tours that we've discussed here. All of our fall foliage tours really only include scenic rail excursions. They're excursion trains. They show off the region. They are a great opportunity to view the fall colors from a new perspective, but they have no sleeping accommodations on board. They really don't go far enough for any sort of sleeping on the train. All right. How many people are on escorted tours? So that's a great question. In 2021, we reduced our escorted group tour size by up to 38%. So this means on average, you can expect between 38 and 44 travelers in North America. And in Europe, the vast majority of our escorted tours are small group tours, which means there's really no more than 25 people per departure, and oftentimes it is much less. Do escorted tours include group meals and social opportunities? Yes, they do. In addition to the standard inclusions like rail travel, hotels, and sightseeing, escorted tours do include group meals. I would say it's important to note that the majority do not include all meals, though. This is so you do have the opportunity to enjoy the dining scene in a particular destination with or without some of your newly found friends on your trip. But with the group meals or just times at leisure, there is plenty of time to socialize with your fellow travelers outside the confines of the group if you wanted to. Okay, this is a good question. What is included in the independent vacations? So independent vacations, they include your rail transportation. So remember we said all of our trips include at least one iconic train journey. So it includes your rail travel, it includes hotel accommodations and some sightseeing. So depending on the destination, it also may include transfers and some meals. The majority of our independent vacations are really customizable. So you can enhance or upgrade your itinerary to meet your vacation goals, which means you can add as much as you want onto that. But in general, all independent vacations include the train, the hotels, and sightseeing, and perhaps some meals. Do you help with booking flights from the US to Europe? Unfortunately not. We don't have air contracts. So Vacations by Rail cannot assist in booking your airfare. All right, we have time for one more question. This is a nice one. How is luggage handled? So if you're on an escorted tour in North America, your luggage is handled for you from start to finish, which means when we talk about luggage handling, it's transported from the train to hotel and on each leg of the trip. If your trip includes an overnight train, this means that you will not have access to your checked bag. So during the duration of the train journey. So you'll want to pack a small overnight bag, which has things that you'll need on the train. For instance, any prescription medication, eyeglasses, pajamas, a change of clothes, any chargers for your electronics. In Europe, your bags are handled similarly on most legs of the journey. So the only difference would be on an independent vacation, there is no baggage handling. You are responsible for handling your own luggage throughout the entire trip. So that's all the time we have for questions today. I know there are several here. If yours wasn't answered, please expect to hear from one of our rail specialists with a personal reply this week. So this is the conclusion of our presentation. I want to thank you for joining us for this look back at popular vacations our travelers enjoyed this year, and to get that exclusive sneak peek at what's to come in 2022. I really enjoyed giving you that. So have a great day, and happy early New Year to you all.